Hey y'all, Nick Pomeroy here with PR Equipment in Kearns, Texas. Hey, today I wanted to kind of go over basically tip charts, right? So when we're talking about spraying, the most important thing that we can know is what our tips are doing, right? It helps with tip selection. You know, you need to know what a tip is capable of to know if it's the right fit for you. But you also need to be able to set your sprayer. And for the most part, this is going to be geared towards your speed and pressure-based systems, which are a lot of your pasture type sprayers are going to be. We sell a lot of spray equipment. I just want to remind you guys, if y'all are looking for spray equipment, especially for your pasture applications, but if you're looking for pull behind field sprayers, we do sell all of that stuff, including your nurse trailers and tanks and parts and service as well. So if you guys are looking for anything, let us know. But I want to go ahead and kind of dive into this. So this is important, guys. This is what's going to be doing the meat of the work when it comes to spraying. So I'm going to zoom out and kind of show you. So this is what a tip chart will look like when we zoom out. And I picked two different charts here to show you guys. I picked them for a reason. One is the common tip that we use on our booms. It's called the AIXR. It's a tip made by T-Jet. I also selected a Boomless nozzle. I'll flip over and show you that. So this is although it's not exactly a tip, it's a nozzle, but this is a Boomless nozzle, and I just want to kind of show you how that looks in both applications, but it's very, very similar. Once you know one, you pretty much know them all. So looking at this tip chart, we have, so there's a little bit of information up at the top, not a ton that you're really interested in too much, but I want to talk to you a little bit about how you know what you got. So like when we start looking at part numbers, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit, when we start looking at part numbers, this part number means something. So the AI stands for air induction, the XR stands for extended range. The next three numbers are the spray pattern, so it's a 110 degree fan, and then the last digits there are going to be your orifice size. So, and then the colors mean something as well. If you notice, as you go up, there you go from green to yellow to purple to blue. Your orifice size continues to increase from a 0.015 to a 0.02 to a 0.25, that kind of thing. So you can kind of take a look here and like say you've got some different nozzles here. Our most common nozzle is going to be the AIXR 11003. So it's an air induction extended range, 110 degree fan tip in an 03 orifice size. It's our most common, although we do utilize the purple and yellow quite a bit too. Anyway, there's two other things that are kind of key things to keep in mind here is nozzle spacing and spray height. This tip chart is based on a 20-inch spray or a spacing. That's fairly common. I would say probably 90-95% of what you're going to see this tip on is going to be at that spacing. Sometimes in row crop applications, you might see it at maybe a 10-inch spacing. I don't think it's something you're going to see much of. So we're going to just focus on the 20-inch spacing. And it also gives you some information about spray height, which we're going to need an optimum spray height of 20 inches. So let's just focus today on this blue tip here. And I want to kind of go through the columns and let you guys see all that. I don't know if you can see how well that is. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So moving across the chart and columns, your first column is PSI. So these are different PSI readings. Obviously this is what you're going to be seeing on your gauge. 15, 20, 30, 40 PSI. Your next column is going to be your droplet size. So each tip varies just a little bit, but so XC is extra coarse, and the VC is very coarse and medium. This is droplet size. I'm not going to jump into that too far. We could have a whole nother thing about that. If there's a chemical you're spraying that calls for a specific droplet size, it's important. And also always remember that the larger droplet size, the less drift. But in some situations, you want a smaller droplet size for better coverage. I don't want to get off into that too far because that's kind of a rabbit trail there. So skipping over to the next two columns, these columns actually say the same thing, but they're just in different units of measure. So what these are is basically what the capacity for one nozzle is in gallons per minute and in ounces per minute. So you come down here and let's just take this because it's here. Let's say we're looking at the AIXR 11002. At 30 PSI, that nozzle is going to flow 0.17 gallons per minute, or converted into ounces, that's 22 ounces per minute. What you're going to use these two columns for is basically two things. One primarily, which is calibrating your sprayer. So if you were to go out and you had your sprayer set on 30 psi and you took a container and caught the flow for 1 minute, it should equal 0.17 gallons per minute or 22 ounces in that time frame. So that's going to tell us a couple things. If it's not that, we've either got a gauge issue, we've got maybe a worn out tip, or we've got a flow restriction. There's a number of different things we could run into there, but if it's not accurate, we need to figure out what's going on. So anyway, that's what that's for. The other thing that I tend to use it for a lot is if we're building something custom and we're trying to spec a pump size. This is nice because if I know that I'm going to put 30 of these tips on there and I want it to spray up to 90 psi, I'm going to take 30 times this 0.3, and that's going to give me gallons per minute that I need for my pump. I don't know that you guys are going to use it that much for that, primarily because your sprayer is probably already set up. So moving on over, we've got a couple different columns here, and these are all speeds. So we got 4 miles an hour, we got 5 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour, and so on. This is basically the speed at which you're spraying. So it obviously has to be a round number just for the chart purposes. So it kind of gives you some different set speeds. For what we do primarily is pasture spraying, 4 to 6 miles an hour is where we're going to be working at. Above that, that's more going to be geared towards your row crop guys or really, really smooth hay patches. But for us, 4 to 6 miles an hour is where we're going to be working. So, and then I want to mention these columns over here. Let me scroll over just a little bit here. So these columns over here, gallons per 1,000 square feet. So kind of disregard that. That's really geared towards turf applications. With our pastures and our row crop and stuff like that, we're concerned with gallons per acre. But if you ever, get into turf spraying, these columns are for you. For us, it's not really something we're working with. So, like I said, I want to scroll down here. Since it's at the top of the chart, I'm just going to use the yellow tips. So, what we're looking at here is on a speed and pressure-based systems, there's two things you can control, which is your speed and your pressure. So these numbers here is where the magic happens. These numbers are basically your gallons per acre. And so I always tell folks, start here and then work your way out. We'll get into that in just a second. But anyway, let's say we need 15 gallons a minute. Well, we can do it here at 14.9, which is very, very close. Or you've got clear down to here, you got 14.9 gallons per acre here. So you can work back from here. So let's say we know we need to be here. And we know we need to go 4 miles an hour because we're just going to go up with that. And we know we're going to go 40 psi because 40 psi at 4 miles an hour equals 14.9 gallons per acre. If you need to speed up, we can come, let's say we want to go 6 miles an hour because we got a smooth field. So we're going to go 6 miles an hour at 90 psi is also going to be 14.9 gallons per acre. And then of course there's always going to be something here in the middle that you could do it at 5 miles an hour, but that kind of gives you the idea. Now, if you get into a situation where you don't see your rate here, if you need to go 4 miles an hour, but you don't see your rate here, we probably need to look at tip selection. Maybe go smaller, larger, whatever it is you're calling for. So that's something to consider. But for most of you all, one set of tips is probably going to do you fine. But 15 gallons an acre is a pretty common spray rate. So that's where that's going to be right there. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. There's really not much else to talk about. We've talked about kind of everything that goes into this, but just so you know what all this information means, there's a purpose for all of it, but for all intents and purposes, what we're going to be working with is right here in the middle, and it's just a product of this speed, and this pressure gets us that gallons per acre, which is what we're really concerned with. So I'm going to flip over here. Now we're going to talk about boomless nozzles. Although what it's doing is different, it's really the same. So these are the high pro boom extender nozzles, what we call our XT nozzles. The XT nozzles are what we use for our boomless setups. It's there's several different sizes available. We primarily use the XTO20 and the XTO24, all just depending on application. So what I want to start with is, this new column that we've added over here, because if you look, everything is very much the same as the last one. We have our pressures, we have our flow rates, which here again, that's what one tip will flow at a certain pressure. And we have our gallons per acre at our speeds. So everything here is very, very common with what was on the last chart. One thing we've added here is the swath width. So swath width, and it's giving you a specification here. So swath width at 40 psi, 48 inches high, and that's what it's going to equal. So boomless nozzles, because of how they're spraying, don't always cover a specific area. It does vary by pressure and the size of the nozzle and all that, and size of droplet for that matter. But they've taken the guesswork out of it a little bit just to kind of give you some guidelines. So they're testing that nozzle at 40 psi at 48 inches high, and they're getting a 16-foot effective swath width per nozzle. In most of our setups, we're going to be using those in tandem, so a left and a right, and that's going to get you that 32 feet of swath width. But I just want you guys to keep that in mind. So I'm going to stick with the XTO24 nozzle since it is our most common. And so let's just keep in line with our 15 gallons an acre that we were looking for before. So over here, we're going to be doing that 40 psi at 5 miles an hour is going to equal 14.9 gallons per acre. Or you can step up to the 15 gallons per acre here, and we can do it at 6 miles an hour. But you notice there's no option for that on 4 miles an hour. And that's because the tip is not going to do that for us. We're going to have to step down a size to the XTO20 if that's what we need to accomplish. And I should have pointed out earlier, there's a reason why, like on this tip, you've got 30, 40, 50, and 60. So the range is from 30 to 60 psi, whereas the other tip was from 15 to 90. And that's the effective pressure range of that tip. Anything lower or higher is going to be spraying off label, and that's not what we want to do, and because it's not going to give us the results that we're looking for. So guys, I just want you to pay close attention to that. It's not like if you get here and you need to go a little lower, you just bump it on down to 20, because you're going to affect spray pattern. So you need to be on the chart, which was what we're going to call spraying on label, which also correlates back to your chemicals and spraying on label there as well. So guys, keep in mind that. But if you notice that the information is the same, we still have this flow rate per tip. So if you want to calibrate it and make sure everything's good, just check yourself. At 40 psi, you should be catching 2.4 gallons per minute. So it just kind of gives you, there's a ton of information here, but they've already done the math for you. You can do the calculations, but why would you when it's already done for you? So guys, I hope this kind of goes over and helps you a little bit. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you find this stuff helpful. We have lots of videos about how to run sprayers and different products that we offer, whether it's sprayers or mowers or tractors or whatnot. But it's our goal to help you guys be as accurate and as efficient with your products as possible. So that's why we're teaching this. But anyway, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook at PR Equipment LLC, or PREquipmentsales.com is our website, or just give us a call. We'd be glad to help you in any way we can. I just want to remind you guys that if you're looking for spray equipment, we carry a huge selection. I would argue that we probably have the largest selection of pasture spray equipment in Texas in stock at any time. We sell a lot of it, and we also sell a lot of parts, and of course we service that as well. So if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. Thanks, guys.